The world watches with bated breath as the war in Ukraine rages on, a brutal conflict with no end in sight. Adding fuel to the fire is the looming presence of the 2024 US presidential election, a political earthquake that could reshape the global landscape. At the heart of this volatile equation is Russian President Vladimir Putin, a leader determined to secure a decisive victory before a potential change in US leadership. Intelligence reports suggest Putin believes a second Trump presidency could significantly alter the trajectory of the conflict, potentially weakening Western resolve and fracturing NATO's united front. This belief has injected a sense of urgency into the Kremlin's calculations, pushing Putin to escalate his offensive and solidify Russia's grip on occupied Ukrainian territories. The clock is ticking and the stakes couldn't be higher. Putin's gamble hinges on a dangerous calculus: that he can achieve his objectives in Ukraine before a potential Trump administration reshapes the geopolitical chessboard in his favor. The world holds its breath, bracing for the potential consequences of Putin's high-stakes gamble. The question remains, will Putin succeed in bending Ukraine to his will before the US election upends the global order? Or will his gamble backfire, plunging the world into further chaos and uncertainty? Putin's pursuit of a swift victory in Ukraine has manifested in a series of increasingly aggressive military tactics, sending shockwaves through the international community. The initial stages of the conflict saw limited engagements, but as resistance stiffened, Russia's approach became increasingly ruthless. Gone are the pretenses of a limited special military operation. What began as a calculated incursion has now escalated into a relentless and brutal campaign. In its place is a full-blown war of attrition, waged with brutal force and a chilling disregard for civilian life. Cities lie in ruins and the human cost is staggering, with countless lives lost and families torn apart. One of the most alarming developments is Russia's updated nuclear doctrine, a dangerous lowering of the threshold for deploying the world's deadliest weapons. This shift in policy has sent ripples of fear through the global community. No longer confined to scenarios of existential threat, Russia now reserves the right to unleash its nuclear arsenal in response to conventional attacks that threaten its territorial integrity, a loosely defined concept that has sparked widespread alarm. The ambiguity surrounding what constitutes a threat to territorial integrity only heightens the tension. Adding to the sense of unease is the reported deployment of tens of thousands of North Korean troops to the Ukrainian front lines. This alliance, forged in desperation, underscores the lengths to which Russia is willing to go to bolster its military efforts. This unprecedented move, a testament to Russia's growing isolation and desperation, raises the specter of a wider conflict, drawing in regional actors and escalating the humanitarian crisis. The influx of North Korean troops could potentially destabilize the region further, leading to unpredictable consequences. Further fueling the flames of war is Russia's deployment of advanced hypersonic missiles, weapons designed to evade even the most sophisticated air defense systems. These cutting-edge weapons represent a significant escalation in the conflict. These devastating weapons, capable of traveling at 5 times the speed of sound, have rained down on Ukrainian cities, including the capital Kyiv, causing widespread destruction and terrorizing the civilian population. The psychological impact of these attacks is profound, leaving communities in a state of constant fear and uncertainty. As the 2024 US presidential election draws nearer, all eyes are on Donald Trump, the enigmatic figure whose potential return to the White House has sent shockwaves across the globe. His campaign rallies are drawing massive crowds, and the atmosphere is charged with anticipation and uncertainty. Trump's unconventional approach to foreign policy, characterized by a disdain for multilateralism and a penchant for personal diplomacy, has left many wondering what his presidency would mean for the war in Ukraine. His previous tenure saw a mix of bold moves and controversial decisions that redefined America's role on the global stage. Trump's supporters, emboldened by his America First rhetoric, view him as a peacemaker, a strongman capable of brokering a deal where others have failed. They believe his direct approach and willingness to challenge the status quo could bring about a new era of peace and stability. They point to his past summits with Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin as evidence of his ability to engage with adversaries and diffuse international crises. These high-profile meetings, though often criticized, showcased his unique style of diplomacy that bypassed traditional channels. However, critics view Trump's potential return with a mixture of trepidation and alarm, fearing that his unpredictable nature and transactional approach to foreign policy could embolden Putin and undermine Western support for Ukraine. They argue that his actions could destabilize the delicate balance of international relations. They point to his past praise for Putin and his skepticism of NATO as evidence of his willingness to prioritize personal relationships over strategic alliances. This has raised concerns about the future of NATO and the collective security of its member states. The world watches and waits, uncertain of what a second Trump presidency would mean for the war in Ukraine. The stakes are high, and the potential consequences of his return to power are being debated in capitals around the world. Will he be a force for peace, as his supporters claim? Or will his return to the global stage embolden Putin and plunge the world into further chaos? The answer to this question could shape the future of international relations for years to come. The bedrock of Trump's foreign policy vision is his unwavering belief in peace through strength, a principle that has been a cornerstone of his approach to international relations. This doctrine is rooted in the conviction that projecting military might and economic dominance is the surest way to deter adversaries and maintain global order. Trump believes that a powerful military presence not only protects American interests but also serves as a deterrent to potential threats. This philosophy, deeply ingrained in Trump's worldview, has profound implications for how he might approach the conflict in Ukraine. His stance suggests a readiness to use force if necessary, to uphold American interests and support allies. Central to Trump's approach is a deep skepticism of multilateral institutions and alliances, which he often views as constraints on American power and sovereignty. He has frequently criticized organizations like NATO and the United Nations for what he perceives as their inefficacy and the disproportionate burden they place on the United States. This skepticism extends to his view of international agreements and treaties, which he believes often compromise American interests. Instead, Trump favors bilateral deals and personal diplomacy, where he can negotiate directly with other leaders to secure terms that he believes are more favorable to the United States. This disdain for collective action, coupled with his preference for bilateral deals and personal diplomacy, suggests that a second Trump administration would likely adopt a more unilateral approach to resolving the crisis. He would likely prioritize direct negotiations with key players over multilateral discussions. Bolstering U.S. military might is another cornerstone of Trump's peace through strength doctrine. He believes that a robust and well-funded military is essential for maintaining national security and projecting power on the global stage. His administration oversaw significant increases in defense spending, reflecting his commitment to ensuring that the U.S. military remains the most powerful in the world. This increase in funding was aimed at modernizing the armed forces, enhancing their capabilities, and ensuring readiness for any potential conflicts. Trump has repeatedly called on NATO allies to shoulder a greater share of the burden for collective defense. He argues that the United States has been carrying an unfair portion of the financial and military responsibilities within the alliance. This emphasis on military strength, combined with his distrust of international organizations, suggests that a Trump administration might be more inclined to provide Ukraine with lethal aid. Such support could include advanced weaponry and military training aimed at bolstering Ukraine's defenses against Russian aggression. However, this approach carries the risk of potentially escalating the conflict. Increased military aid could provoke a stronger response from Russia, leading to a more intense and prolonged confrontation. The question remains, would Trump's peace through strength approach deter further Russian aggression and pave the way for a negotiated settlement in Ukraine? Or would it exacerbate tensions and prolong the bloodshed? The effectiveness of this doctrine in achieving lasting peace and stability is still a matter of debate. As the world watches the unfolding situation in Ukraine, the potential impact of Trump's foreign policy doctrine continues to be a topic of significant interest and speculation. The balance between strength and diplomacy will be crucial in determining the future of this conflict. Adding another layer of complexity to the already intricate geopolitical landscape surrounding the war in Ukraine is the intervention of tech mogul Elon Musk, whose controversial peace proposals have sparked both outrage and debate. Musk, known for his audacious ventures and unconventional thinking, has waded into the conflict with a series of pronouncements that have drawn the ire of Ukrainian officials and divided Western opinion. Musk's peace plan, unveiled on his social media platform, X, formerly Twitter, calls for Ukraine to cede control of Crimea to Russia, a concession that has been met with fierce resistance from Kiev. He also proposes that Ukraine adopt a neutral stance, relinquishing its aspirations for NATO membership, a move that would significantly alter the balance of power in Eastern Europe. While Musk frames his proposals as a pragmatic path to ending the bloodshed, critics view them as deeply flawed, arguing that they reward Russian aggression and undermine Ukrainian sovereignty. They accuse Musk of prioritizing a swift resolution over a just peace, emboldening Putin and setting a dangerous precedent for future conflicts. Musk's intervention, though well-intentioned, underscores the complexities of the conflict and the challenges of finding a peaceful resolution that respects Ukraine's territorial integrity and addresses the legitimate security concerns of all parties involved.